Hey guys, welcome back to Fully Defined, and this is the Build and Learn series where Lego builds and SolidWorks skills come together. Now, in this episode, we're covering 5 parts. Each of these parts is modified from something that we've already created in the series. In the description, I'll link back to the previous episodes where you can see those parts. This is a very quick way of modeling when you're making small changes to things that you've already modeled. As we're nearing the end of the assembly, we're also starting to tinker with certain elements of our assembly, cleaning up some mates and making sure everything fits together as it should. Let's get into it. All right, I'll be up to step 31. Cool. Step 31 is a plate. It's 1x4. And if we look at detail, 2 of these parts are a little bit different on the bottom. This doesn't have a 3D view, so I will show you how they look like. Obviously, we can start with this part. So let's copy that name and save copy of file. Plate modified 1x4 tubes, studs, grooves. Save, copy and open. And all we're going to do is jump before the shell and delete those 2 grooves, let the shell occur, and then on the bottom add in some ribs. Also for this point here, we're only going to have one. So again, we'll do a delete face, quick and easy way to remove these. Just keep what we need and let's put those ribs in. So we have 2 ribs here, midpoint. We're going to mirror that straight to that side. Calipers and the ribs themselves are 1.4, and then they are separated. Looks to be 19. It's probably got more to do with this area here, 5.2. If we did a construction line here, made that driven, got the midpoint of this line and put it here, I think that's actually the correct measurement, 18.6. So that looks fine. Then let's put some ribs in as well. The ribs are actually just sole points, 1 millimeter, 1.2 diameter, and they are about 17.2 apart. Easy. Extrude up to surface. Done. Okay. So where they go in the assembly, on the top. Okay, mate. Slide up using the studs. Beautiful. Line with works. And we'll update the color and add it to our mirror components. Nice. Next step. One green. One way. I'm into green 3/4. Okay. No doubt these will have some special descriptions. Let's have a look. Green wedge plate 4x2 right. Green wedge plate 2x2 cut corner. Okay, let's do the cut corner first. And this will be, I think, a variation of the standard one. So I find our plate 2x2, and we can add in here a configuration for 2x2 cut corner. We're going to do a derived configuration. Now that means that configuration only works under this one here. And what we'll do is, before the shell, we're going to cut that corner exactly as it says. Now, don't have dimensions, but it does definitely look like a 45-degree cut, and it's very close to 8 millimeters. Let's assume it's perfectly in the middle, which would be 7.8. So we are going to do a cut through. Just go through both directions, and then a delete face to remove top. Now, when it is shelled, we get a different result on the side. Boss stays in the same place, but what actually happens on the part itself, you can see here, there's a gap there where normally there'd be that circle. So we just need to add in that gap. And the distance between faces on that is 5 millimeters. Let's get our midpoint there. Put a rectangle either side. Dimension 5. Make this for construction. Make this cut extrude go up to this surface. Add it the same. All right. Where the part assembled, it's around here with the corner facing the front. So let's assemble that. Insert component. Now it inserts at the current configuration that's open in that file. That's why we didn't have to change anything. You can see it goes onto these parts here. So we will make that face with this face, and I'll use my studs to mate, and I can see here that something is out of alignment. I won't add that one. We'll bring this down and we will have a look, see what's going on. I'll temporarily add a parallel mate, and what can we see? See how that gap works? It's pretty good. Looks like the part on the bottom isn't aligned properly. So these points here, you see it's a bit off. Are these ones a bit off as well? Yes. Now that could be to do with parts behind it. So we've got some more troubleshooting to go. So if I look at these 2 parts here, this one and this one, again, they're off. And if I hide this, look at this one and this one, they're also off. So this one to this one, 8 millimeters center to center. This one to this one, 8 millimeters. But looking at this one, I can see that It's clearly not aligned on the end. I think it's because there's a coincident mate down here. No. Or maybe it's this one. No. Let's see all the mates associated with this part. To do that, go here and we go view mates. Okay, and when we do that, it isolates just those components and it shows you above the line kind of the key mates related to that part, and then below the line are other mates, usually later. So what we're looking for here is trying to understand what's driving its position. And now I think it's that circle. If we suppress that circle, we'll be able to change its position. Now it's an 8 pieces long, which means it should be 63.8. Dimension looks correct. No arguments there. Now remember, somewhere the tolerances are a bit messed up. It's nothing to do with those parts. It's all to do with this one, the one below it. So this and this should be mated. And what I'm expecting we'll find is that there's a gap that should be a gap or a step or something that's just out of touch a little bit. I'm probably talking 0.2 millimeter. Well, you can kind of see that when you get to this point here, that between these two, there is a gap of 0.15. Now, what is driving that? Well, this part here has a bit to do with it. So how are the details going in this part here? They're all looking correct. Correct. All right, no issues there. Link to that all looks fine. How about the rest of these parts, what they're built up on? This part, definitely questionable. Let's have a look through this. 15.8, 8 centers, cut, move face, shell 31.6, 8 mil centers. I'm not sure if that's correct. Let's check. 3.95, 8.65. Okay, that's clearly wrong. I think this one should actually be 31.8. This could be 3.95, and that should be the same due to that one. Midpoint of this should look here. We get that touching. That looks better. Okay, so now we've got that central. Let's see what that does in our assembly. It's causing some problems. However, now look at this one, which is fully defined. I think we'll see now that this one aligns, 0.2. We're troubleshooting, more troubleshooting. Roll back and find the errors in these. 1x2 inverters. Where's your second dot? Could be trouble. I have a feeling that we've stuffed up some configurations. Yeah, let's try and sort that with simple mirror. Okay, that is better. Have we resolved our mate issues? I think the answer was no, not quite. Or maybe yes. That looks better. Let's unsuppress, unhide some parts and see if they are starting to fit now. Okay, it looks better. Put our plate in once again, and it's fully defined and does look like it now aligns. Fantastic. Okay, so the second part to go in here is the longer one. This is a wedge plate 4x2 right. Now, this one's a bit different to all plates. It does have the 4 in a row lines, but I don't think we want to make a configuration from this one. We can, of course, start with that part and make things easier. So we'll do that. So we open up this configuration and we're going to call it wedge plate 4x2 right. Save it as a copy. All right, so what we will change on this is we can cut away one side and remove those studs, and that's also impacting the shell, as you can see here. Let's get our top view. Let's roll before the shell. We will actually change these two for construction. They get left off. Too much mucking around. Let's go back. Reload. Reload the part takes you back to where you last saved it, because in this case, it's going to be much easier for us to do this with a new feature and start from here. All right, now how far is the split? You can see at one end, part size keeps its original size, length or width, 15.8. The skinny end, there's 2 halfway. So what we'll do is, for a shape, cut it like this and just cut all the way through. Now we can do our shell. We can see the details looking just like your line. Only in this one, there's now some gaps. We can see, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to put those gaps in as our next step. I'm going to convert some edges and sketch the line in between. Now these lines are perpendicular to the outer line itself. We're sketching them all in place. So 1, 2, and then 1 more cut. Okay. Now I'm going to trim them. All it is, I'm going to trim the sections that I'm going to cut out. Right, so I've got these 3, and then I'm going to add some dimensions. And dimensions are going to go from this end point to here. So I get the outside dimension, and then I'm measuring, and I'm getting the inside dimension. Outside dimension 3, inside dimension is the gap once again, 5. And then the last one, another 3, another gap. Make sure my dimension comes off at the same angle, 4.2. Okay, now we can cut up to this surface. Excellent. Now, let's see what other details are kept. So we have this extrude, correct, with a pattern. What we can do is a couple of things. Let's use our delete face tool to remove that little face there. And for the section that's going outside, we can try the same thing, although it might not work. Probably will. We can select 3 phases. There we go. And that is done. Now that is a plate 4x2 right. There is a mirror part required, but I think we can use our mirror component to create that. So in the assembly, this one goes above, pointing up. Let's bring it in. And our mates, mate the studs, and our colors. These are dark green parts. Now the assembly instructions only add 1 part on each here. So this step, just adding on 1. And it's the next step. And we don't get to the duplicate till step 34. But we may as well mirror that now and see if that works. Our mirror component, select these 2. Go to a preview and see, no, neither of them look correct. So I'm going to have to do some work. So this one here, that is going to be none of those options. So we might do that one manually. We'll take it out, do it manually. Whereas the next one, the plate, none of these options here work. But this is an example. Let's do it's called a create opposite hand version mirror. And we're just going to press the tick. I can see it's done for us here. And that is its own part file called a mirror wedge. Now, this is not necessarily the way we want to do it. There's one option for you. It's a separate part with this part brought in and mirrored, except you don't get to see the mirrored feature. If we go edit this mirror feature component, skip to the 3rd step, we can see here how it actually creates the opposite hand versions. And in this case, it's created a new file. But what we can do is go back a step, change that, change it again, go forward a step, just checking the other options, make sure you aren't missing it. Now, okay, press OK on these ones. All right, if we take it out, then we'll have the ability to create a configuration on the inside. So let's do this again. We're going to edit mirror component. We're going to include this part. We're going to go forward. We're going to make a opposite hand version. Forward. Okay. I'm very surprised it's actually not giving me the option. I want to make it a create new derived configuration in the existing files. We'll have to come back and do that later. For now, we will leave it because the part looks correct. And this wedge part, not this one, not this one. Don't want that. This one here made this like the other ones. Flip and then use our concentric mates to line it up. Give it bright color. Move all these parts into step 30 to 39. Another step done. All right, step 33, we have a couple of additional parts. Part number, the white one here we've created before, so we can put that in straight away by a scan. So let's make a duplicate of that part. I'm going to do that by clicking while holding Control and then using the mate tool to get into position. It's going to be facing this direction. So 1, we have this Grille component, which is a new part, line tile, modified 1x2 Grille bottom groove. Let's grab out some parts. This one, then pull across on the other side in that. And this one, then we have, assume we're going to use 2 of those grills. The other 2, and a small green flat one. Okay, let's put these green ones on. And then that white one, it's going there. Is that right? Yes. The grill part, let's make one of those. Let's use a plate that's 1x2 as the size. I think it's going to be the same size. Yeah, this is our starting point, but make a completely new part. This one, we will delete all the configurations. We're not going to need them, and we will make a default configuration. Delete the original, delete everything we don't need, just to simplify, and then let's roll back. So we don't need these. I think that sketch, and in fact, this shape we can change to say these dimensions. Right. So no surface cut required, no moving face required, but we do need a shell. So we do the shell, we don't need this, and now it's time to cut our grooves. We'll do this from the top, and we can just measure the thickness parts that remain, 1.2, of which we have 1 on that side, 1 on this side, come to 1 on the other. They're all going to be equal at all 1.2. And then what we're cutting down to is 2 millimeters for the bottom. So we're going to do a cut offset from this surface, 2 millimeters, but we're flipping the side, and that'll give us our little grooves. Now, if I flip over to the bottom, there is a very small ledge that we've seen on quite a few parts. So we do this with an extrude thin. Can't remember what dimension we've been using. This will do for now, 0.2. and it's usually got a 0.5 mil radius on those corners. And then this part also has a little pin point right in the middle. It's 3 millimeters. And as far as I can tell, it comes right up to the top. Okay, simple little part. So that, and let's bring it in the assembly. That is in the middle. Let's use some outside faces to make. And then let's assume there's a gap. It's going to be 0.2 or 0.4. 0.2. Nice. Okay. So we've got 2 of those. And then the last one is a square. And they have called this part a line tile 1x1. What do we have that's 1 by 1? We don't have just that one tile there. So let's just make a part. This is called line tile 1x1. Once again, we will get rid of everything we don't need. Create the default configuration and then get rid of features we don't need. There's very little to this part. Can we need any of that? All of that. What I need is this. Go to the null dimension, 7.8. Its height's going to match everything else. 3. If I 2. And then it's got the usual detail on the bottom. So it's got the shell and then it's got that edge that we just did before. So thin feature going down 0.2 of a millimeter with some fillets on the outside. And that's it. The simplest part we'll probably get to. Let's put some very tiny fillets on the outside. And they did a tile slightly different to everything else. And move it to the assembly. Use that 0.2 dimension gap lined up nicely. That is done. All right, let's update some colors. This one, lime green. This one, also lime green. This one, white. And let's mirror those components. Very good. Nice. Back. And saved. We're up to step number 36, which is a simple part. Let's go. On the bottom, plate. So let's add a copy of a plate, change that configuration to 2x4. Let's get the orientation correct. Yep, it's going to go here. Add some mates. Coincident mate, good. We're going to add a mate at the edge. Yes. And then it should be in the middle. Front plane and right plane. Nicely done. That part is white. Let's see if there's any more quick parts. No, yes, we have. We have done that one. Okay, let's get 2 of those. So that gives that part there. Grab one on this side. Actually, let's add to this one. That one will be a mirror. So done. So we have one of those parts there already. And then this step, that is a new part. That part is grey slope curved inverted. Let's not forget our steps. Okay, slope curved 2x2 by 2/3 inverted. Let's reference this one. I have some similar shape to it. We'll save a copy and let's go. But so if we're looking at the part, we should actually flip it. And that's probably the one thing that I should do here. Now, how do you flip something like this? Well, there's no easy way to do it. Let's just reference the dimensions we've got. And then they're probably going to change. They might stay the same. To the curve that's going to change. So if we delete that and then we're going to move some of these bits around. Sure, that one might not be there. We're going to reverse the dimension like this. Bring that up. Bring that one up. Flip this one. And then we can add our curve back. Just like that. We need to check our dimensions. So now lower section 3.2 and our total height 6.6. Now our width is not nearly as long. That top section is 7.8. I think the whole bottom section, the whole thing will be our normal 15.8. There we go. Now this is too wide. So we're going to increase the width to 15.8. And then the part is shelled from a different face. This top face. Now it has dark for us, so it's good. As usual, we need to just fill in that section there. Okay, where that gets cut through. Let's just delete that face so it's solid all the way. Now we can put our bumps on top, our studs. Here we go. So I'm going to do a sketch on this face. These are going to be the usual 4.8 on the outside. And what we can do is move the points that they're patterned around. Something is keeping them joined relationship out for a line through there. Then we can get a line between these. If we can find the midpoint of both, we can get them fully defined. Now, the wall thickness is actually a bit less than this one. Only 0.8. That makes a bit of a difference. Move it down to 1, and that changes the ability of that delete face to work. So we also have to update that. So fill that in, try again with this sketch. We can see that looks much better now. And then each of these will come up normal height. But for the first one, we're going to select contours, and we're just going to select these bottom 2. And we're going to make a key. We're going to offset by 1.6. We go up to the surface. And then we'll do the same thing on this face. Same thing on this face. We select the contours, but we will go offset from surface to get our height. We can merge that. Then we can just delete face these bits sticking through. And then to get our holes, what we're going to do is convert all of these and do our normal offset, 0.8, and then do an extruded cut that goes up to this surface here. There we go. You don't need these details or the fillet on the outside. It's probably there. We'll leave that for now. All right, slope curve is done. Let's insert that into our assembly. It's on the bottom. It is this location, so it's touching the edge of the white. And let's see if we get our dimensions correct. We might have to make some adjustments. That would be essential to that. And that actually looks pretty good. Very nice. All right, and let's add this part into mirror components. And let's give a gray color to this part here. Correct, actually. And keep going because there's another 4 piece that's just added on the rear. So very easily put our mates in for that one. Duplicate that part. Use this face. Then I can use these studs to get it aligned. And now we're starting to get into a bit of a rhythm with our mates, knowing what the parts are actually lining up with. All right, that is step 38. We're nearly 40, but we are definitely over halfway. I'm very curious to see how this looks in key shot. We haven't tried yet. So we're going to give that a whirl, just as a little preview for later. Right then, there we go. Bad. Of course, materials are not in there. But I suspect we can get to that very quickly. Kath, this is going to be fun. When we get there, at least it's going to look very cool. Very realistic. Just need a couple more colors to join in. All right, little preview. Come back to this another time. Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end. Really appreciate that. This has been the LEGO Build and Learn series by Fully Defined. If the next video has been released, it'll be on the top link to your right. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and leave a comment below with what you'd like to see next. Your feedback is what motivates me to provide more content. See you in the next one.